Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ninja Selling Podcast. If that's what you are tuning into today, you found us. If that's not what you're tuning in today, you are in luck because you have found the greatest podcast in the entire world. And we are so happy that you are here. And we are very humble about this podcast, as you can tell. Now that the jokes are over, Garrett and Matt are here with you guys. And if you have stumbled upon this and you're new to ninja selling and you want to know, hey, what is all this about? You can find Garrett and I at ninjacoaching.com or ninjaselling.com to learn more about what we do. You can also join our community where you will find us, over 14,000 other people who are interested and committed to learning about ninja and walking the ninja path, as well as all of our amazing coaches that coach one-on-one with people and help them follow the path every single day so that they can achieve their goals, their dreams, their desires, and all of the other great things. And so find that community over at Facebook, search for the Ninja Selling Podcast, and it's all there. So good morning to you, Garrett.
I thought for a moment you were going to do the Facebook /groups /
Almost
You
did.
almost
I started
did.
losing my train of thought. I was like, I don't even know what we're talking about today.
I was like, he's going there.
I was just having so much fun introducing this thing. Like, I'm good now.
So this is a little bit of kind of an addition to what we were kind of just our last episode that we did, Matt. And I think, but it's on a little bit of a different level, which is this idea of learning something new every day, making sure you walk out of every day with something new that has helped you grow to be a better person and all the goals and the things that you want to accomplish. And I threw this at you and you got excited about what this might look like. So I'm going to kick it right over to you.
It was interesting because it came about because you had asked a question the other day when we were getting we have these new cameras, which are amazing, which is enhance this podcast experience in a way once we start actually publishing these videos, which you've seen some of them. We post these in our Facebook group when we do the Ninja Coaching Spotlights. But you're like, well, what is the difference between 1080i and 1080p? And I was like, I don't know. Well, why don't we just go learn about it, right? And we did learn that it had to do with 1080i is, two alternating lines of visuals, whereas 1080p is like it all together, right? And so back in the old days when you saw those lines on TV, that was the I technology. And now in today's world, you don't see that stuff. You see a lot of pixels and all that stuff. That's the P technology. The 1080 just has to do with the resolution. And you're like, that's so cool. I learned something new today. Let me tell you about this idea that I've had for the podcast. And I was like, that's perfect. And it is interesting learning even just something as small as that. It feels empowering. It feels good. And I think it is a highlight that we are built as human beings to learn things, to acquire skills, and to, fill our brain with new knowledge because it can hold a lot of stuff in there.
Well, and I've always been fascinated, and we've all done this too, where it's like something will come up as a challenge in front of us, and we can very easily say, I don't know how to do that. And in that moment of, I don't know how to do that, you have an option of saying, do I want to learn about it, or I just want to continue to not know about that? And we're an amazing society right now that it wasn't that long ago. So again, I'm rebuilding a motor right now. Actually, the motor's rebuilt.
Which talk about learning something new, right? Like the thought of tackling disassembling an entire motor and rebuilding it. Now you have some general skills that you've acquired over the years to be able to tackle this. But when you showed me what you bought and what it looks like now, and you've done all this on your own, I'm like, how do you do this?
Well, and it's interesting. There's only one thing in this kind of journey that I've been on here that I have not taken the time to learn how to do myself. And that's the machine work on it. That's actually taking the parts to a professional machinist with certain tools that is something that I have not figured out on my own. But a lot of people have come to me and they're like, how do you know how to do this? And a lot of this I did not know how to do. I've always wanted to do it. I've always wanted to learn. I've always admired people that can do it. Just full disclosure, it has not started yet.
We don't know if this has actually worked yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have learned a lot so far. But that's been an interesting conversation with my wife where I've been like, okay, so here I've got this journey that I am on. I am putting this motor together. I am building this car. And as I'm going through this, like I've had moments of like, what am I doing? Like, really? What if like I do all this and we don't have a motor that's going to work and we don't get to race this car, because the whole point of this thing is to race it. It is not going to be street legal in any way, shape, or form. And Sarah said, is the what you are learning out of this experience worth it, whether it turns into what you want it to be or not? And I literally have had moments where I'm like, if none of this happens, none of this actually starts at the end of the day and works, I actually have no problem pulling the motor back out and starting from scratch and learning where I went wrong, and trying to sit there and say, okay, well, what if it was this, or what if this? So maybe I didn't do something the right way. Maybe I torqued something down to the wrong specs. Maybe I got the wrong information from somebody out there. But I'm going to learn and I'm going to figure it out. And I've already had to buy some parts twice because I've broken them, putting them in, and been like, damn, like, all right, order them up again, like bring them back in. And I think that we are in an era. The reason I started this part of this conversation is, Matt, is that we are in a space right now that all the information's at our fingertips. All those things that you have in your mind that say, I don't know how to do that. If you've ever wanted to learn how to do it, it's there.
Yeah. Or what is that? Whether it's an action or just understanding how something works or what it is, right?
Any question to anything you want to be better at is right there in front of us. And I've always had this thing in my mind, which is every day I learn something new is a good day. It's a valuable day in this life that I'm growing, that I'm building. And, you know, whether it's building a car, whether if it's learning, I've even joked about sometimes where there's a word that's troubled me for years that of spelling, and I'll sit down and I'll work it through and be like, okay, so we're going to learn how to spell this word today. So the next time it comes up, like I never have to deal with this ever again. And it's interesting. You can just take those little things and say, okay, from here going forward, I know how to spell restaurant. It's never going to give me trouble in the future ever again. I'm not going to spell that word for you right now that I've just said it out loud, because I can butcher that one.
Well, it's the act of learning too, right? I mean, the motor's a big thing, right? And there's a goal at the end of that, but there are some things that we learn that are just good for learning. But this also applies to your business too, right?
Yep.
When you're like, hey, I don't understand that market data. I don't understand this. Great. Well, let's start to learn it. And it doesn't mean that you have to learn all of it in one day. I think that's part of the resistance that sometimes we have to educating ourselves on things. Like, oh, that's going to take too long. It's like, okay, it might take time, but what if we just started with one element? Like, what if we just learned how to just view the data on a spreadsheet of like, how does the data even come out of my MLS? What tools are there that I can click on and see what they do? And I'm just going to learn how to navigate the system today. I'm not going to learn about what that is, but you can just take these small little steps also to learn something big, which then can help you be better in your business as well.
Anything. Well, it's like, so I start to think about like, what if you had a little journal with you that as you were going through your days, as you're talking with somebody and someone all of a sudden starts talking about absorption rates and inventory levels of the marketplace, you can very easily go like, oh, my MLS does that for me. My managing broker does that for me. Do I want to learn about where those numbers come from, what that means, and how that works? And so I think that that's the opportunity where you then get to sit down and say, okay, how can I go learn this information so that I can actually have an educated conversation about it moving forward in the future? Because again, there's lots of stuff out there that we just kind of take for granted, but like, what if you knew how to understand it? Like one thing that I want to get better at learning this year that I have never really taken the time to understand is interest rates and why interest rates are what they are. And I know that they are set and I know that they are adjusted for certain reasons, but I've never really taken the time to really dive into it to understand about how they use it to control the economy and how they use it to control inflation and things like that. And I know how it works. I get the general gist of it, but like, I want to go learn more. And it's one of those things I can easily talk about with all of you right now. Matt, I can discuss it with you.
Sure.
But to put it down as something that's like, what if I took a couple hours tomorrow to really start hammering on Google and asking different questions about this and that? And then as I learn more information, ask more questions. And I could become a amateur expert. Does that work?
Do those words go together? Sure, they do.
Yeah, I'm going to use them. I'm not going to be an expert in it right now.
Well, I guess an amateur just means you're not getting paid for it. So you can still be an expert, whether you're a professional or an amateur.
We're overthinking it now. I can at least have enough data there and enough information that I can have an educated conversation about it. If I want to learn about the stock market, I have had so many opportunities to go learn about the stock market, ask more questions, dive deeper into it. I understand investing in real estate really, really, really well because I've taken the time to learn about it. When it comes into the stock market, never taken the time to, but what if I chose to go learn about it today? Like all the answers are there. It's just me not wanting to set the time aside to go look and learn. That's what's stopping me in today's world. That's the craziness of the world that we're in right now. It's amazing.
Well, and you got to choose where your time is worth. But I want to go back. You mentioned like having a journal, and it's funny. I had to go reach for the 5-minute journal.
Oh yeah,
right. Because on the 5-minute journal, right at the bottom, when you're doing your reflection of the day, it says, "What did I learn today?" Right. And I think there's also just learning that happens every day that sometimes we're not even paying attention to. Sometimes we'll just learn things about ourselves through going through something. Like you might learn, hey, you know what? I need to get that extra sleep. Or, hey, when I ate that made me feel like crap. Right. Or, hey, when I asked this person this question, they got a whole lot more clarity about their home search. Right. And writing down and acknowledging the thing that you learned, right? And I love the 5-minute journal, by the way. So I recommend for anybody who wants to build a better habit around gratitude and just kind of centering yourself and understanding yourself. It literally takes 5 minutes a day to do this, broken up into basically 3 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night. It has that space. What did I learn today? And I think that's just a great question for us to ask ourselves every day. But you can then go a step further and start in the morning, just like you were saying, Garrett. Hey, I want to learn more about interest rates. Start in the morning. What do I want to learn today? Based on what's going on through my day to day, what do I want to learn? And maybe you find a little pathway where you can go learn a little bit extra, like what the difference between 1080i and 1080p is.
We're just saying this out loud. It's funny. So like my family, we've been dabbling in Bitcoin and things like that. And, cryptocurrency type stuff. And as far as we can tell, it's gambling. We're like, this is just gambling is all it is. There's no rhyme or reason to what it does or why it does what it does. But it's really interesting is that that's something like if I wanted to take some time there, because Matt, as you said, there's all kinds of stuff you can go and take and learn. This is why I think it's cool to have a journal or something that you can say, yeah, as I bounce through these days, what's something that if I do get some free time, I want to do some research on, and instead of maybe sitting on TikTok or Facebook or other things that are just
kind of, you might learn something on TikTok. That's all their new ad campaign. I learned it on TikTok.
Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that you don't learn on TikTok. Like you got to find those little gems. It's like the needle in the haystack. Oh, there it is. Yeah. There's my thing I learned. I knew it 3 hours in. I was going to find it, and I got it. So, but I think if you have these things, I mean, one is I think just we have so many opportunities to learn just in general. And I think having the 5-minute journal and being able to step back and look at it and go, what did I learn today? And there's a being proactive in it also and saying, today, what is something that I want to make? I mean, what if you had 30 minutes a day that was just designed, Matt, just for learning? Things I want to learn more about, things I want to dive deeper into. Very, very, very proactive about it.
Yeah.
It's got to do something good for you, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and this is why I like reading, and I don't feel as good when I go through periods where I'm not reading every day, because a book, even if there's like, as you mentioned, like the 3 hours spent on TikTok, and I think like a book, okay, you may not learn something new every day out of a book, but you can learn one little thing probably about about something in every single book that you read. Like you may read 100, 200 page book, and there's one page that teaches you something that was worth it. Right. And like I said in the beginning, we're wired to learn new things. We want to acquire knowledge. We're curious, right? I mean, as we're pulling out to take the kids to school today, 2 fire trucks come down with their sirens on down the street, and Victoria goes, "Whoa, there's fire trucks and their sirens are on. We need to go find out what's going on." She's genuinely curious. She's like, "Why do they have their sirens on?" And I was like, "I don't know." She's like, "Do you think there's a fire?" And I'm like, maybe. And so we like followed them down the neighborhood to see what was going on. There was nothing going on. Probably an alarm. And she said, "Oh, it's probably the smoke alarm," is what she said. right? And now my daughter's 4, right? And she's sitting in the back seat coming up with all these reasons. She's just naturally curious and wants to figure out what is happening. And then she said, well, can we stop by there? They have hats for kids. Can we go get a hat? I'm like, well, they're kind of busy doing fireman thing right now. So.
Don't be those people. Well, I want to teach you something right now. Don't be those people.
It was just, you think about that. We are wired to learn. We are curious beings. And so give yourself the opportunity to learn, because we certainly give ourselves the opportunity to not learn. And this actually also came out for me. A book I read a couple of years ago, actually, when I hurt my back, was a big eye opener for me. Why can't I think of the title right now? Because it is a book that I talk about all the time.
What did it start with? What's it sound like?
It starts with a C.
Can you sound it out?
Oh, gosh. Restaurants.
Should we come back to this?
We'll come back to it. Anyway, in the book, they talk about how we do not get enough boredom in our lives, right? Boredom is actually the cue for our brain to go learn something, to go figure something out. And whenever we start to experience boredom, we immediately go to entertainment, go to something that, hey, I need something to cure my boredom. But typically that's not something that fills us with new knowledge, right? Because it's, let me put on the TV show, let me go on TikTok, let me go on YouTube. And I think if we can turn that into, let me go learn something, you're going to feel so much better. Like you're just going to grow as your own self. Yep. And that's something that I want to get better at too.
Well, and again, the opportunities are there.
Comfort crisis. The comfort crisis.
There you go.
That's
good job. The reason we wanted to kind of throw this episode together today is that we have choices that we make every single day. The episode we just did, if you haven't listened to that, was talking about deposits of time in your life and instead of time blocking. And looking at this episode, I'm hoping people walk away with it of, be proactive in what you're learning, where you're growing, how you're approaching every single day. Because we should walk away with new knowledge every single day. And I think, again, there's lots of things we learn every day that it's really not maybe useful for the bigger picture of where we're going. And if you can get on top of that and get focused on it, it's amazing how fast you can grow. It's amazing how fast you can become that person that you said before, that I don't know how to do that. I have to take that to somebody who knows how to do it, to all of a sudden be the person that knows how to do that. Be the person that maybe people come to you because you're that specialty person that understands how to do that.
Yeah.
I learned to weld years ago, and the amount of my friends that come to me and be like, dude, can you weld this up for me? Because they don't know how to weld and I do. It's incredible. Some of them own welders themselves and don't know how to do it because they bought the welder going, someday I'm going to learn how to do this, but they haven't figured it out yet. There's just so many opportunities around us.
There are. And it's not like you have to go learn things that you don't want to learn, right? Like there's a lot of benefit in your friends bringing stuff. You go, hey, Garrett, can you weld this? Because I don't want to weld it.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's just not going to be a skill that I'm going to learn. And that's okay too. Right. But seeking that space to learn something every day, I think is really important it'll pay dividends on longevity too. It'll help you your cognitive function overall. It'll help you problem solve better with your clients. Like there's just so many good benefits from learning something each day.
I think we also have a little bit of a thing happening in our society, and I could be wrong, so you're welcome to call me out on this, where a lot of times you'll watch people try stuff, and when it doesn't work out the first time, they kind of go, I don't know how to do that. Or that's not my thing.
They just accept the knowledge gap versus knowing that they actually can fill that.
And if you want to take something like welding, for example, if I went back and showed you all my first welds that I did, I have a piece of metal that's hanging in my garage. It's actually not really hanging. It's kind of stuck in the corner that I can show you like all my first welds. And I very easily could have gone, I don't know how to do this. Obviously I can't weld. Obviously I don't know what I'm doing. And, time and trial and, changing things to cause the failure, which I found, which is interesting, changing the settings to make the failure happen and be like, oh, now I know how to fail. I know how to make this not work. Now let's tune it back in so I can make it work. And what caused that and what made that happen? Because there's all these different settings and different things you can approach, different temperatures. There's so many different things going on. And so When you start to learn, though, now you become the person that knows how to do that. And I think if you change this back into real estate, there's a lot of you out there that are like, yeah, I want to do videos, but I don't know how to do. I want to do TikToks for my real estate business, but I don't know how to do that. I've tried it and I'm just not good at it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
The ones that got good at it made it a priority to figure it out and to learn and to trial and error and shoot videos. Matt and us with this podcast.
Oh, hands
we
down.
recorded a whole bunch of episodes up front. A lot of them never saw the light of day. And I remember sitting down with you and analyzing them and going like, okay, we took this approach on this episode. How did you feel about it? And I would share how I felt about it. And I was like, well, I think next time we need to not lean into this side so much and we need to do a little bit differently this way, until all of a sudden we felt like we got a groove and we're like, ooh, that's the way.
Yeah. Oh man, it's now obviously get your autoflow and everything set up before you start leaning into TikToks. But yeah, it literally is about knowing you can learn how to do that. Don't accept the knowledge gap. I mean, you see it all. People are like, oh, I'm getting old. I don't know how to use these devices. No, that's bull. Like you can do it. If you know you can learn it, you can learn it. And I'm telling you now, you can. So have the knowledge that you can learn and explore. And it might take you longer than somebody else. And that's fine. If it's something you truly want to learn how to do, like you're going to figure it out. People are like, oh, kids learn things so fast. Now, yes, there is a lot of science behind why kids absorb and learn things so darn quickly. But if you also look at the time and attention that kids put into things, like, oh, my kid knows how to use the phone so much better than I do. Yeah, because your kid's on it 5 hours a day. Like, of course, they're going to know how to use that thing. Like, whenever I get a new car, Garrett, the first thing I do is I go sit in the car and I start pushing every single button because I want to know what everything does. I don't know how it works, but I'm going to go learn by going and doing it. And so that when somebody else gets in the car and they're like, hey, how do you go turn this setting on? Oh, you just go through this menu. How do you know that? Oh, because I learned it when I first got the car.
Yeah.
Right. It's not that I'm not special in any way.
Well, the interesting thing, and I was just kind of, as you're saying, like, you hear older people sometimes say like, oh, the younger generation just gets it. I'm not going to figure that out. I think sometimes our prior knowledge actually gets in the way. And every time we get something new, we look at it and say, okay, I've come across something like this before, and I'm going to try to approach it the same way that I've approached something like this before. And when we apply that same knowledge that we had before to this new situation, we go, I don't get it. I don't understand how this works. This doesn't make any sense. And instead of us taking the time to learn it and to figure it out, where the younger generation doesn't have all the, I saw this before, I know this, I know how to do this,
right,
to dive in with the prior knowledge that's wrong and then go, it doesn't work the way that I thought it was going to work. The younger generation, the new generation that is learning it for the first time, they're approaching it with an open mind of, I've never seen this before. And that's the crazy thing. A lot of the newer stuff, everything, it's actually easier to use. It is more intuitive.
Yeah.
It's the reason that a PC
they design it that way, right?
person has such a hard time using Apple products. And I'm speaking totally from myself, is that Apple products are way more intuitive to use and to manage and to make do what they want to do. And then you take me and you give me an Apple product and I try to overcomplicate every single step of what it's asking me to do or what we're trying to do. And I get myself in trouble with it. And I think that prior knowledge is what actually gets in our way. So I know we kind of deviated there, but I think...
Well, I mean, if you're open to learning new things every day, you can combat the prior knowledge, right?
Yeah. I'm still not going to figure out an Apple.
Because prior knowledge can serve you in a good way in other places, no doubt. We just need to put the new knowledge in so that the old knowledge goes, oh, wait, let me go over to this new knowledge because that's what's going to help me, accomplish this task.
I find it much more valuable to make fun of Apple users.
Well, see, that's a decision that you've just made.
Oh, no, it is a total decision, and I love it. I'm sorry. If you're an Apple user out there, which is the majority of the people that listen to the podcast.
Overwhelming majority.
Overwhelming. I totally understand it. I appreciate Apple products for what they are. I just haven't taken the time to learn them. And it's totally a me issue. It's not an Apple issue.
Oh, man.
All right.
I love it. I love it. So get out there and learn something new every day.
Yep. So everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you tons for taking your time with us. Hopefully you learned something new from the podcast episode today. Hopefully you walked away with
at least the difference between 1080i and 1080p. I bet they learned that. And if you didn't catch that, just go drop it in the Google machine and you'll be like, okay, now I know.
Now I got it, because there is more to it. Matt gave a very, very condensed version of what 1080p and 1080i is. If you want to go check out the group of people that like listening to this podcast also, and you want to share your information or learn from them, go into the Facebook community, the Ninja Selling Podcast community on Facebook. 14,000 people in there. If you want to hire a coach, bring somebody like that into your life. We can also help you with that. We have a group of amazing coaches, and they are all deeply trained in ninja, in real estate, mortgage, other industries. We coach people in all different types of businesses and career paths with ninja selling. It doesn't have to just be real estate, and we're here to support you if you're looking at bringing this into your life and into your business. With that being said, Matt, appreciate you tons, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks as always. Thanks to everybody listening, and we'll be back very soon.
Yeah. Catch you guys on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.